Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Micrographics webinar on Navisworks and AEC collection and how it is used to view federated models. And I've thrown in a bit of the cloud as well, just to expand upon a topic that I've recently come into contact with, and that is how we can use our different file formats to go through a walkthrough within a Navisworks model. So first of all, I'd like to discuss combining models and going through a walkthrough, and then that we can make markups, that we can use switchbacks, that we can clash detect, and then in conclusion we'll just summarize everything that we have discussed. So why would you like to combine models and go through a walkthrough on a project? In the first place, we might be sitting with quite a complex model, depending on what we have. So consider a project where we have a variety of disciplines that are working together on quite a large model. Now, a relatively large might describe something like a skyscraper or a block of flats, where we are having a combination of things that are included over here. So we might have some Revit files, where a variety of Revit files are included in one model. So there we can see the facade, the structural. On the base we can see a civil 3D file that was used to generate a topography that was shared into Revit. So you might have roads, bridges, MEP components, plant elements, 3D CAD that was drawn. There's a variety of different formats that we can have from the Autodesk AEC collection. And within the Autodesk AEC collection, we'll find that there are a variety of products. Right? So this AEC collection is just a great package if you have to have more than one piece of software available to you. Then it's more expensive than buying one of these licenses, and this license pretty much gives you a license with which you can do pretty much anything. So it comes in with different purposes. Basically, the building design would be done with your Revit, right? Be that architecture, MEP, or structural, typically. Then there are some other file types as well that aren't used for navigating a model or clash detection, although if you want to see the analytical results, you'd have to open the individual you'd have to open the individual package to go and view whatever results you've got over there. So the major ones are the Advanced Steel, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and then InfraWorks and Revit. The InfraWorks can be an FBX file. That is essentially a mesh file. And a Navisworks file is what we will be considering in this package. So all of these other packages can be opened within Navisworks, or most of them, and then they can be used to create a federated model. And we do that for a variety of purposes. The typical 3, 4, 5D BIM, where we are going from what is something looking 3D to what is the quantification on those elements, in what time sequence do those elements get constructed, and even what is the clash on the timeline of those elements, so that we can say place construction equipment on the site and so forth. So that's the first thing to consider, that Navisworks can open an enormous amount of files. There are over 50 types of files that Navisworks can manipulate. So even if it's not Autodesk software, you can still gain an enormous amount of information out of models coming from other contractors or people working with you. Contractors. And there we have it. So anything from AutoCAD, MicroStation, Bentley, SAT files, IFC files, Inventor. So the types of programs that aren't included in the AEC collection, but that might come from mechanical engineers if they were doing some plant design within the building or factory or whatever it is that you are busy building, that you can bring into Autodesk Navisworks. And I'd like to contrast that for you with the cloud. So if you think about the Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is what a lot of our clients are currently using. Now, the typical question that comes up is, all right, so I've got this Autodesk Construction Cloud, and there's some great products in here, including the two products that are equivalent to Navisworks, which would be something like your BIM Collaborate and your BIM Collaborate Pro licenses. And on those BIM Collaborate Pro licenses, you'll have the ability to navigate a federated model and also clash detect, a federated model, which essentially takes the place of what Navisworks is able to do. And I'd like to make the case that Navisworks within the AEC collection is still a great package to use in certain circumstances. So if you look at the types of projects that you can clash detect within the cloud, it's very limited. And this is something that everybody should be aware of when they are planning their project and also planning to use the cloud for clash detection. The automated clash detection and access in Navisworks, there you can see Revit is fully supported, both as an automated clash detection and within access in Navisworks. DWG, the same. The IFC, what they call tracked, that includes the following: Navisworks exported from Revit or AutoCAD based applications, so that would be any AutoCAD vertical, including third-party apps, and then IFC exported from AutoCAD architecture, AutoCAD MEP, Civil 3D 2018 and onwards, ArchiCAD, Revit, MagicCAD, Revit, AutoCAD, and Tekla structures. Right. So there's quite a few of them, but there are only so many IFC files that can be accommodated. And in that case, the automated clash detection is performed, but if it is in any other IFC format, you cannot clash detect it. So they're improving this, and you can also not access this in Navisworks. And then the NWC and the NWC other tracked, that is, of course, also another Navisworks format. And there's a bit of a caveat there. Right. So view files, you can also do model aggregation, but you can't automate clash detection. So you can see how there's a real problem over here with the new, not a problem, but a limitation to the new platform. Whereas with Navisworks, you've got all those different file types that are supported. All of these files can be loaded into Navisworks, regardless pretty much of where they come from. And you can clash detect them and you can navigate them. Whereas if you compare that to something like the cloud, there's only so much that can be done with it. So while you can navigate the model, you can load it into the cloud and navigate the model, you can't automatically clash detect that model. And that is a limitation. There's also no time-based or time-dependent clash that you can do on the cloud. So there already for you is a very good reason why you would still invest in Navisworks and often the AEC collection, because it contains Navisworks Manage, in addition to having a cloud license. So the AEC collection and the cloud works together is what you can think about. Then, so the other reason is when very large and complex models are viewed. So here we're talking about seriously large models. Something like that model that I showed you might be large, it's doable, but if it was 10 times as big, then you might have a problem. And it's been found that Navisworks actually operates easier to navigate the model after it's been created on your hard drive. It's not in the cloud, so if you have a lot of piping or a lot of detailing, structural detailing, and too many details, or a lot of details, not too many, but if you have a really complex model, then it takes the cloud viewer a while to adjust to what you are doing and to show you what you're looking at before you can do a markup. And it's disconcerting because you almost have to know where you are going to be looking before you wait for the view to resolve. Whereas that's not an issue in Navisworks. So that can be a consideration if your models are very, very big. Then, like we've mentioned, the Autodesk BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro license can facilitate the navigation of the project model in the cloud. It's true. And it works really well. And then advantages being able to create issues and markups. So the cloud is very useful because there's one version of the truth. So if you make an issue or a markup, then that is almost automatic. It's there. You can assign it to somebody, and you can follow up on it. You can track it through time. Doing that in the Navisworks model, it's not that simple. You do have an issues add-in that you can incorporate with the issues within the cloud. But usually what ends up happening is, because Navisworks it takes time to set the models up and clash detect them and create the markups. Usually there's one person on the project that does the clash detection and the allocation, and they will then give the Navisworks file, write out the Navisworks file, save it, and send that to the other project team members, apart from whatever else they are creating. And then, because the cloud also extends into the construction part of the project, you can see that when the build license is used, that's a further license that's used on the construction, that's requests for information and construction issues, as well as quality assurance and quality control. You can take snag lists, videos, images, and you can incorporate all of that on your snag lists based on mobile apps that you can run on a cell phone or on a tablet. And that is also available in real time for the other people to see, where again with Navisworks that's not the case. Clash models may also be expected and the clash issues created, and only certain file types can be handled. Like we've seen, not all the file types can be clash detected, even if they are transformed into an IFC. That's an important thing to remember if you've got a supply chain that's using a lot of different software. And with Navisworks, the first person has to collate the models into Navisworks before being able to navigate. Since the desktop connector link synchronizes to use hard drive, a single user may create the federated model. Okay, so here's an interesting concept where we can use the Autodesk Navisworks and the cloud together, where we are sitting with our hard drive. And on the hard drive, we've got the Autodesk construction or Autodesk Docs platform, and on that we might have a project that we are working with. Now this project, usually what we have is a collaboration folder with different teams in, and within those different teams we will work in a silo. And then as soon as we're ready to share with another team, then we will share and then also consume from the other teams the files that they have shared with us. So there we can see how we can get that. And so if you think about this Micrographics cloud person over there, there's some consumed models over there, there's one from the architect. Right. Now this file, while it's on the cloud, also sits on the hard drive. So it synchronizes to the hard drive for at least 3 days once you start using it. And if you load a file onto this location, then it will also synchronize up to the cloud. So if we look at that on our project, this is the same project. Here we can see we've got the Micrographics cloud team, and within that team we've got our consumed folder. It's quite nice how this is set up. We can stay in swim lanes, and if we are in a specific team, then we can consume other people's models. So the way that I would envisage something like this to work with Navisworks and the AEC collection with all the different file formats, because we now have people that are using Civil 3D, Plant 3D, InfraWorks, Revit, they're all cloud compatible in the sense that you can co-author models on there. In Revit, it's a true collaborative environment, but with Civil 3D, you can put your shortcuts, your data shortcuts on the cloud. Plant 3D, you can host the models in the cloud. So what we see then is that we've got our swim lanes that we can occupy. And in this case, we might consider ourselves Micrographics Cloud, somebody that's going to flash detect the models. And so we would like to accept from the other disciplines the packages that they have created. Right, so within those packages, there are models that we can go and have a look at. If we open them, then we can actually see that model. And then we can also consume that model if we want. Okay, there's another one from the architect. That should be the latest model. And then there's one from the mechanical engineer. And that then opens, in this case I can see that there's very few models that were in this package. Let me just go to another model and see if we can get that quickly. Alright, so just due to a permissions issue, I switched over into the Micrographics Architect. But over here, for instance, you can see that the ability on the cloud, when one switches into the project model, it automatically opens that project model as a federated model, which consists of the architectural model, structural engineers model, and the mechanical model. So those are three models that are there and that you are able to navigate. And there are different tools for this. You can navigate using the first person. So you can walk, move up and down, point your mouse, but you can see as you are walking, so the model tends to resolve itself in time. So it's not immediate. As soon as you change your position, you have to wait for the model to update, and that can take time. So that's the cloud with respect to seeing the model, and then also within the model coordination space, there we can view clashes, which we'll see in a moment. All right, so here we can see that we've got these different models. And if we switch them on and view them, then we can even see the clashes that are being generated. And whether it be that we are walking through those models or clash detection, we can create issues and markups, which is very useful. Now, this isn't Navisworks, obviously, this is cloud, but the point I'm trying to make, or the argument that I'm trying to make, is that it might still be worthwhile for you to consider using Navisworks, depending on the project that you're using. If it's too big for the cloud to handle, or if you are working with many different types of files that you are trying to bring in. So while we are waiting for that clash detection to complete, the alternative method of doing things would be to have a look at the folder structure and the themes that you've got available to you. So let's suppose now that we are working as an architect and we want to create a Navisworks clash detection, and we consume different people's models. Now, the same might be true of the cloud person, that they might have consumed different folders from other people, and inside there are models. Right? So those might be Civil 3D models, it might be plant models, it might be whatever was shared with us. Those models are available to us here. Nothing stops us from opening Navisworks and saying, all right, I want to open a new, just wait for it to open. Nothing stops me from creating a new file. And then to add geometry from a different file, right? So I can add, say from, and then I can browse to my computer and go to my Autodesk Docs folder and to my Micrographics Cloud. There's my folder that I'm working on my project files. On the collaboration folder, there we find the architects folder, and now within the consumed folder, there I'll find the structural model. And nothing stops me from opening that structural model within Navisworks. It's downloading the latest version from the cloud and it's creating a cache file or cache file of that structural model on the cloud. Next time that the structural engineer shares that file with me, because it will have the same file name, the cache file will automatically update with the latest version. So it's exactly the same as if we were working on a local area network. It's still operating against Civil 3D or AutoCAD, IFC, whatever files that we want to open. But in addition to the files that can't be flash detected on the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we've now got access to many more files. All of the files that Navisworks can open and flash detect are now available to us. And you'll see that in the folder now, eventually, once this refreshes and creates, there will now be a Navisworks file that will sit within this folder on the cloud as well, which will then be synchronized, obviously, from the computer up to the cloud. And let's just try this quickly. Let's take this Micrographics consumed architect. Here it is. Synchronize. Okay, so here's the structural model, and I'm now opening that within Navisworks. Okay, so for whatever reason, it seems that there's something that's corrupt within the system at the moment. So none of the cloud models are actually currently opening. My apologies during this webinar for that, but I've done this before where one then uses the cloud and creates the Navisworks file directly on the cloud so that it then synchronizes down onto your hard drive. For whatever reason, this is not doing this today. The alternative to that would be to just download those files and to have it on your computer and then to collate them together. Alright, so this is now an example of gremlins in the system, but we've had the unfortunate experience of the cloud not working this morning. In any case, the webinar is about Navisworks. It was just a pity because it would have been nice to show you how it integrates with the cloud as well, that you can have all those different file types on the cloud, and then you can also work from the cloud directories. And I think one of the services is just unavailable this morning, and so I do apologize for that. Typically it isn't a problem. But I've used a different file in the interim, which you can see is a file that is being read from my hard drive. And as soon as I open that file, it will create a cache for it. So you'll see that in the folder here as well. Look at the file types. As soon as you save that file, it will then update. So that is the 901. Look at that per name. There's the Navisworks cache file. And every time that you open this cache file, it will update from the latest version from the 901. And then the idea is that you just open the other files that also integrate with it. Unfortunately, these files are now not of the different disciplines, but you would then also open up the mechanical file for argument's sake. So if you had a mechanical file that had to be integrated with this, then you would bring in the mechanical file and you just append that mechanical file. So exactly the same process would be followed in the cloud as well, and you could have many more different file types, and that's really the advantage. So you'd be both in real time. You can either clash detect the Navisworks file on the cloud as well, but you can clash detect it in Navisworks, just the one's automatic and the other one is not. And then every time that you want to add a different model, then you would open it up within this interface and then you'll have it available to you. With Revit, it's nice because you can switch back into a specific issue when you create that in Revit, and you can also do some markups and just navigate the file. And you'll see in a moment when we start navigating the file that it's easier to just navigate and see everything that you would like to see. What some guys do is they even take screenshots as they navigate the model. But usually what we do is create some markups and just make sure that the design team then understands what it is that they're supposed to do. Okay, so one after the other model would be opened like that, and depending on what the model format is, that would now also be it would expose a different format. Right, so if you had a look at the, I don't know, let's just bring anything in at the moment. There's a AutoCAD Civil 3D file. Once we open the AutoCAD Civil 3D file, it will come in as a different format. And similarly to all of the 50 other different file types that we can integrate into Navisworks loaded, or modules loaded within Navisworks, you'll then be able to navigate within Navisworks itself. You'll then be able to navigate and steer around this area if you walk. Be careful with the speed at which you walk. You can obviously change that to fit your units, and then you can walk through your model and you can obviously turn, and if you want to have a look around, you can look up at elements. You'll see how in real time this now allows you to have a look around that model. There's some other tricks that you can put in here as well. You can have your realism, collision, gravity, crouch, and third person if you want to see the size of a person, and then also gravity if you want to go upstairs, and collision on if you don't want to be able to walk through things. Just be careful then if you have things like rooms that have been loaded in, because you'll collide with those rooms. And then once you're in this model and you're looking around and you have your piping and whatever, then you'll be able to make some markups on your review tab. And you'll be able to create some of the markups. So let's suppose that there was a problem over here by this column somewhere. Then you'll be able to mark that up. And maybe put some text there as well. And so you'll be able to create all of these markups. You can also introduce them as views within those markups and then write them back. But the big thing here is that it's just easier to see the models as you are looking at them. All right, so just to repeat, if you've got an area where you want to make a markup, you can save this viewpoint. You can save that viewpoint as a markup. And then you can go and create that review there create a markup. Put some text. Put some comments. And then we would like to have a look at that save with viewpoint. Obviously there it is. So if you go to another view, you go back to that viewpoint, then your viewpoint will be available there. So the idea would be then to create some markups and then ultimately to go and save this file as an NWD file. And if you've saved this as the NWD file, then you can feed that back to the supply chain. They in turn can download and install the Navisworks Freedom package. So if they want to view these markups for free, then they can go and install Navisworks Freedom, and they can then open that NWD file and they can view the markups from there. So that would be the typical workflow, and then they will just have to install Navisworks Freedom, and whoever is marking up the project will have to do so from Navisworks. And the clash detection in Navisworks also takes quite a while to set up initially. Afterwards it can operate faster. And then in the cloud, of course, that is done automatically. The clash detection is done automatically. It does take a bit of time to finish with its clash detection, but then the issues can also be created automatically. And then lastly, if you have a view like that and a model within Revit, you can use the Switchback tool to go directly back into Revit. And we're running out of time here, but the clash detection, like I said, if it's time-dependent clash detection, then you would want to make sure that you've got your your Navisworks so that you can move your construction equipment around on site. That's something that you cannot do within the cloud yet. Just in conclusion, you should use Navisworks. Even if you've got the AEC collection and the cloud, if you've got if the model is really large, and if you need a time-dependent clash detect, and it is required to switch back in Revit. And then the cloud will offer the advantages of automatic clash detection, so you don't have to spend time setting it up. There's only one version of the truth. And then the metadata is collected in the cloud so that you don't have to send files backwards and forwards to communicate any markups that will be on the cloud. But Navisworks is already included within the AEC collection, and it's very useful. It can open many different files and do the job that you need it to do. But in addition to that, if you've got the cloud available to you, then leverage Navisworks against it. I do apologize for the models not being able to save and synchronize onto the cloud this morning. We seem to be having some issues connecting to the server, but the idea would be exactly the same if you save it on your local hard drive. than if you had to save it onto the cloud. Please let us know if you need any help with Navisworks and cloud. You can contact us at our offices in Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, Johannesburg and Durban. And just let us know if we can be of assistance and if we can help with your budgets. Thank you very much for attending and enjoy your week further.